Welcome back to just an excellent show, and welcome to day 3 of Predictions Week. These predictions are set in stone, and we will be staked to them for the rest of the year. One caveat about rooting interests. You are allowed to fervently root for your hometown team and also root for the Chiefs.
No.
It's like being a Bulls fan in the 90s. You're doing yourself
That's my take.
Exactly. All Chiefs fans have that take. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't get on board, especially if you're beloved at the parade. Okay. We will predict every division, every award, and every playoff game, and we start today with the basement of the AFC West. Nick, take it away.
Basement dweller last year, basement dweller this year, the Denver Broncos.
Oh.
It's a disastrous season on deck for Denver. Unfortunately, they've already lost key players, particularly receivers, due to injury. I think the loss of defensive coordinator, coach, I'm telling you, coaching matters. E.J. Evero is going to hurt them. And I do not think Sean Payton is going to be able to fix it all in one offseason because he cannot fix Russell Wilson one offseason because Russell Wilson is not fixable. The Denver Broncos in last place once again. Third place, Las Vegas Raiders. They lost 5 games last year. They led by 7 or more points. They lost 3 games. They led by 17 or more points. I think some of that will be better, and I do think that there is not a massive drop-off from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo, assuming Jimmy stays healthy, which is tough, but it is a bit of a drop-off. That's why they don't take more of a leap, and I don't trust the head coach that much. Sorry on that one, coach. The Raiders are in third place. Second place, same as last year. In fact, this whole division, same as last year. The Los Angeles Chargers. A lot of talent. They are bitten by the injury bug every single year, seemingly at an unfair rate. But the biggest thing working against the Chargers is something they did to themselves and they have no way to fix. They have 0 home games. And when I think that is a margin that is almost impossible to make up. When half your games are true road games, about 4 of them are neutral site, and then 4 of them are the most demoralizing type possible, which is the home road game when you're in a silent count. So for those reasons, I think they have a ceiling that some of the other teams in the AFC don't have. And then, of course, the 90s Bulls, as I said 2 weeks ago, the Kansas City Chiefs. There are only 2 really interesting questions with the Chiefs this year. The first one is, this team that has won 8 consecutive games, will they be 13-0 when they head to New England?
Let's go.
Trying to beat the New England record of 21 straight victories. It would be a 22nd straight victory on national television in New England. Then if they do that,
we'll be there.
The only we'll be there, no problem. You'll be rooting for the Patriots and I'll be rooting for the Chiefs. The only other question, Brou, is of course, can they be the first team ever to go 20-0?
Wow.
I think they maybe can, but we'll discuss that more later. Go ahead. Oh, don't sigh, Coach. Coach, don't sigh.
Coach is chomping at the bit. All right, we're similar, but I got number 4 as the Raiders, okay? And look, they do have talent. They had talent last year, though. All right, they not only they had made the playoffs, they had Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones.
Okay.
And do we have that picture? But anyway, and they lose. What, they win 6-7 games last year? So they got worse. I look, Jimmy G.
What? Dusty the graphic.
Dusty.
How are they last?
We got the graphic.
How are they
I'm
last?
about to tell you.
Okay, sorry.
I don't trust Josh McDaniels as a head coach. Nice coordinator, but the record speaks for itself. Like I said, last year they added talent and got worse. I think they're going to struggle with him, and this will probably be his last year there.
Yikes.
And then Jimmy G, he has trouble staying healthy. Okay. That's all I say. All right, at number 3, Denver. This is a Sean Payton pick. This is trust in Sean Payton. I do think he'll get better stuff out of Russ.
These are your teams.
I keep it objective. I'm the most objective guy up here. So that's all I'm doing. I'd love for Russ to have a resurrection. I do think he'll play better because not only is he playing for a starting job this year and in the future, but he's playing for his legacy. We've talked about it. Maybe that certain Hall of Famer that we all thought, maybe it's not so certain anymore. So I think he'll play well, but you said it, the receivers are already banged up. Yep. Defense will be strong, run game will be strong. I think they can win 7 games. All right, at number 2, but not in the playoffs.
Wow.
The Chargers. And you talked a lot about it, Nick. They don't have a home field. And we know how tough the AFC is. Their division, I think those games with the Raiders and Broncos will still be tough games. And no home field advantage. The defense has not been good under Staley, even though that's supposed to be his bread and butter. I think they'll be better, obviously. You hope Joey Bosa's healthier. But I think the defense is going to be their Achilles heel. And then injuries.
Of course.
Great receiving core, but will they stay healthy? And obviously the Chiefs at number 1. But I got to say this.
What?
Bad vibes.
You think?
Hold on. Travis Kelce's talking about, I don't make as much money as I should.
No,
He couched it nicely, but he put it out there.
I love it.
Did he have to put it out there? He didn't have to put it out there.
Go with the bad
Right.
vibes.
And Chris Jones, where's Chris Jones?
Well, Chris Jones isn't there.
Okay,
That's legit.
that's all
The
I'm
Kelce
saying. They
thing
got
is
too
not
much
legit.
talent. I'm
The
just
Kelce
saying the
thing is not
vibes are
legit.
bothering me a little bit. They got too much talent.
He said that
Vibes.
in Vanity Fair, and he was loving it.
Yeah.
He was dressed in a
He was
fur coat
loving that.
next
Yes.
to a
Make
Ford
as much
Bronco from
money
the
as I
70s.
should.
He loved it.
Okay.
Coach, let's look at consecutive division titles. America's team obviously has the record, but the Chiefs getting close. What could derail the Chiefs that we're all fans of? At least.
Okay, stop it.
What?
You
don't like
just
the Chiefs
stop it.
anymore?
You can't. Your son is allowed to be a
There-
Chiefs fan. You are not.
There's a lot of things that could potentially derail this team. And you could start with the 2 brand new offensive tackles, so we got to see how that works out. Although I didn't think that was a real strength of the team last year. You've got to have that continuity on the offensive line, and they've got to build that chemistry. They've got a very young receiving core. They've only got Marquez Valdez-Scantling back in terms of significant experience. And then can Kadarius Toney stay healthy? So that's one aspect too. And then when you look at the defensive line with no Chris Jones, with their starters on opening day, I think have a combined 29.5 sacks in 179 games. So that's like about a tenth of a sack a game. So that's what you're talking about until they get Chris Jones back, until they get some, I'm not very good at pronouncing his name. The other
Omenihu, Charles Omenihu.
Yes,
He's
until they get
suspended
him back,
for 6 games.
there's another 6 games. So you're talking about a defensive line that's going to struggle in terms of generating pass rush. Now you add fatigue. And what I mean by fatigue is in winning back-to-back Super Bowls, which hasn't been done in 20-plus years, the reason it's so hard is because you've got to be up every single week, and it gets harder and harder each consecutive game. And can you maintain that? And Kansas City hasn't been able to do that, and there's probably a good reason for because it's really
It's just
hard
not
to
true,
do.
though. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a second.
Wait.
They have had. Just wait one moment.
You asked why, and I love the vibe
Hold on.
element to it.
Hold on.
Just a little there. That's all I'm saying.
When you've got to hold out, one of
your best players.
You're arguably, definitely your
He's a
best
great player.
defensive player.
And he'll be back. He told us he'll be back
Week
at
8?
the latest by week 8. And we went through the schedule. There's no losses before then unless you're going to pick them to lose to the Prince that was promised.
So what he's
They
saying
can
is
lose
don't
before.
book your ticket to New England because that game won't matter.
No. What I am saying very clearly is that we need Chris Jones desperately for the postseason. He will be back for the postseason. That's first of all. Second of all, the last time the Chiefs were Super Bowl champions, they were 14-1 and rested people in the final week of the year. Now, in the Super Bowl, they got their butts kicked. And if we think that's because they, for some vibes reason or a hangover, no, that wasn't why. It was because they had 5 new offensive linemen, and credit to the Brady and the Bucks for beating them. But the idea that this team, there is any concern that having won the Super Bowl, they won't rise to the occasion, there is no evidence of that. And you're right, they don't have a lot of great receivers coming back, except for a couple that Coach didn't mention, who scored touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So
Tony's got to stay healthy.
What I'm saying,
he's going to be back week 1.
And with Tony, he's been up and down in terms of from an injury perspective.
Right.
And those other young guys have to prove they can do it consistently. Now, they've got the advantage of having Patrick Mahomes, but we asked what could derail it. If that doesn't develop the way they hope it develops, that's something that potentially is an issue. And 2 new offensive linemen are 2 new offensive linemen, and hopefully it's an upgrade. Hopefully it's an upgrade, but there's a chemistry component to the offensive line if it's going to be successful at a high level.
Orlando Brown
0
Jr.
times
is
this
pretty good.
preseason.
I know you down on him, but
Both Brou and Nick have the Broncos and the Raiders missing the playoffs. A healthy Jimmy G has never missed the playoffs. And Sean Payton has basically said his Broncos are a playoff team. He also said, no bucket hats. Coach, who's more likely to be playoff bound? Jimmy G, who Brou abandoned, or Russ, who Brou abandoned?
Well, as much as Nick killed Minnesota yesterday for winning close games and being resilient and giving him no credit for that, now we're also not going to take into account the fact that the Raiders lost the way that they did last year, and the odds of that happening are also pretty slim
That's
as
why
well.
I don't have them in last place.
So they're both slim, and they did win 6 games last year, and they broke an NFL record for losing double-digit losses. That's not going to happen again.
Agreed.
This is a second year in the defensive system. That should be much better. Jimmy G should be an upgrade over Derek Carr.
Really?
And here's where I'm going with this is he has a relationship with Josh. He understands the system. They're going to be able to do things that they couldn't do with Derek Carr from a system perspective, which should make them more effective offensively than they were last year, just from a scheme perspective. Now, if he can stay healthy, which we all know is a gigantic if. But if that's the case, they should be a lot more productive and a lot more successful than they were last season.
Brou, I think you made a strategic error.
You think the Raiders are making the
all
playoffs?
his teams and his players?
You're the Jimmy G guy.
yeah.
He just gave you a great
You
are the Jimmy G guy.
Not anymore.
Not
I
over
mean,
yet.
He'll probably get hurt, unfortunately.
Gee whiz.
Unfortunately.
All right, let's turn our attention to the AFC South.
It's a coronation.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence
Everyone agrees.
and the Jags are the darlings of the league. Titans lost 7 in a row to close out last year, but do have D-Hop now, and 2 new faces, Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. So, Nick, what do you got?
All right, I'll go very quick here. Houston's going to finish last. Luckily for them, they don't have their own pick because their GM, who is 6-26-1 since coming over from New England, who said today, we can't be judged on our record. It's about the process. I don't know what they're doing there, but they really wanted Will Anderson. I like DeMeco Ryans, but he is in for a hell of a season. And by the way, if they don't win at home against Indy in week 2, they could be winless well past Halloween. Speaking of Indy.
And I like Nick a lot personally, but he certainly judged the previous 2 head coaches by the way.
Yeah, he's on his 3rd head coach. That's absolutely right. He's on his 3rd head coach. He's 6-26-1. Got to judge us on our process. Well, your process was you traded away next year's first-round pick, which is going to be a top 4 pick. I don't understand it. I said I'd go quick. Sorry, I got a little worked up there. Indy. I'm excited to watch Anthony Richardson. I think Shane Steichen could be quite good. I don't know what they're doing with Jonathan Taylor. I don't know what the latest Jim Irsay tweet's going to be. I have them in 3rd place. They'd be in last place in most divisions. Number 2 is the Titans. The question is, do they pull the plug on Ryan Tannehill? Malik Willis didn't look close to ready. Now they drafted Will Levis. Right. They know they eventually need to go and rebuild. But is Vrabel too good of a coach for them to ever really fully bottom out? I think Vrabel is a great head coach, a truly great head coach, but I don't trust the team. And then, of course, the coronation, the prince who was promised year 2, Peyton, or year 3, for him, just like Peyton Manning 2.0, led the league in touchdowns, led the league in yards in year 3 as the defending AFC South champion. I see something similar happening for the prince. And while all you guys mocked me all last year and all this year, I would imagine every single person at this table is picking the Jags to win that division and go back to the playoffs. Brou, I'm excited to see your playoff picks.
At number 4, you got that wrong. It'll be the Colts.
Okay.
All right, I like Anthony Richardson, but he's going to be up and down. He can run the football. What was he, 6-17, and he's doing this? I mean, it's going to be a roller coaster ride for him throwing the football, but I think maybe a bright future. Jonathan Taylor, we know what's going on with that. As far as missing at least the first 4 games. At number 3, I got Houston. Look, DeMeco Ryans, I like Will Anderson. You know, C.J. Stroud, I guess if he's going to be the quarterback. I do like him a lot. Obviously, as a rookie, he'll have his ups and downs. But they're coming off 3 horrible years. I think the future is brighter, and I think they can finish 3rd. At number 2, we've got the Titans. Like you said, Vrabel, great coach. Derrick Henry, he didn't look spent last year. He didn't look like he was washed, so he'll still do his thing. The only thing I don't like about Trevor Lawrence
there's nothing.
is that Nick is so obnoxious about him and picked him early. I've liked Trevor Lawrence.
Stop,
bro.
But
What are you doing
Nick
today?
goes so overboard on him with the wins.
We've all
and
known
the
it. Bru's
trumpets,
a big
the
Trevor
bugle
Lawrence guy.
boys,
He
and all
doesn't
that.
believe in Jimmy G.
It's a weak division too. It's a
Okay.
weak division, but I expect Trevor to have a
Coach,
good
can I show you something, a stat? Because we're filled with a lot of propaganda on this show.
A ton.
Here's how Trevor Lawrence's year went last year. You would think it was just perfect the whole year. Well, through weeks 1 through 8, it was mediocre. Then he caught fire, beat the Cowboys on national television. Everybody watched it and said, wow, this guy's great. And then week 16, through his playoff games, he threw 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, including 4 interceptions in the first half of 1 playoff game.
That means in the other 5 games, he threw 2. Is what that would mean.
Just adding it up. Coach, is the hype for Trevor Lawrence justified or a little too much?
Yeah, like bringing in the guys that play the flutes or whatever they play.
The Royal Trumpeters
is over the top and way too early. And look at it. Look at his season last year. He had a 5-game losing streak at the beginning of the season. He did have a 5-game winning streak at the end of the season, but it wasn't like it was prolific in terms of interceptions or in terms of touchdowns. He had 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but much better.
Sure.
And then now he ends with a 96 quarterback rating. Go into the playoffs, and he's got 2 games with a 70 and a 74 quarterback rating.
Hold on.
So he's 25 points
so
lower
ridiculous.
than he was in the regular season. So we're going to kill Josh Allen for being up and down. We're going to coronate. We're going to coronate this guy. And
Josh Allen is talked about like he's the best or the second best quarterback in football. Trevor Lawrence, folks, on this show, we're saying he's not as good as Mac Jones. He might be a bust. And if we are not going to act as if for any other player in the league, we would talk about the resiliency in playing the worst half of football of your life, being down 4 scores in your first ever playoff game and leading a comeback like we saw. Nobody ever says when the 28-3 comeback for Brady.
Because of how poorly he played.
Right.
The 28-3 comeback, no one ever says, well, it would have been just 21-3. We didn't throw that pick 6. How impressive is it? No.
He threw 4. I'm sure we would mention it.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Listen, guys, I'm happy. I thought after last year, the Trevor Lawrence thing wouldn't be that good of a topic on the show because everyone would have literally bent the knee as you did when the trumpeters came. And then we would.
He had trumpeters for Carson Wentz. He had trumpeters
for
Dak
I did not
Prescott.
have.
He had trumpeters for Baker Mayfield.
That is
it doesn't matter who it is. He's got a trumpeter for him.
Coach, that is the record does not reflect that.
They're in the green room right now.
Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence and
Anthony Richards, bring out the trumpeters.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.